This episode is brought to you by our great host, Anchor. It's the best podcasting host we've ever had, and it's got to be the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me tell you why. First of all, it is free. No charges at all for hosting your podcast. Also makes distributing your podcast so easy to all the major platforms with just a click of a button. And the best part of all is that you can make money from your podcast. Download the free Anchor app or go to Anchor FM to get started. This thing's got everything you need to make a podcast all in one place.
Well, Dave, we've had an exciting past few shows, man. I mean, we've been, having a lot of guests, which is nice. Talking to guests about movies, getting different perspectives.
Yeah, I get so bored talking to you about movies. It's good to get some new blood in here, some new perspectives. So, yeah,
Yes.
There's been a great string of shows letting it being driven really by the guest.
Right.
We allow them to choose the film, and we talk through it. So, yeah, it's been great.
Exactly, and they basically host the show. They do all the work. That's all we need.
That's all the prep.
So today, excited to welcome comedian and co-host of the Top 10 show with John Roca. You can find it on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, basically anywhere you can find podcasts. We have Matt Knost with us. Matt, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate that Dave is wearing merch from his own show, so that's a nice touch.
Gotta promote, man.
But guess what? That's better than a Pistons t-shirt. I'm sorry. That's got to be the worst fandom in NBA.
Unless we're in like 1990, right?
I mean, come on. What are you basing this on? Is this the ball or the brawl in the palace or the palace malice? Are we talking about that? Are we talking about
Malice at the Palace is fine in my book. I had zero problem. Don't throw stuff at that. They're human beings. I just really fault Artest for going, fuck me, fuck you, and just going on. There were a couple civvies that just got clocked.
Oh man, yeah, Jermaine O'Neal, he totally destroyed a couple of our fans. Even Steven Jackson, that was insane. I couldn't believe it.
Then at Steven Jackson, there was somebody running up on the court on bench side on their bench. He just turns and boom, just takes the dude's head off.
I think that was the Jermaine O'Neal one. Yeah,
was that the Jermaine O'Neal?
He came just running, and I don't know how that guy's. I don't know if he's alive, if he's
turned around or something.
Yeah, it was almost as bad as the Tom Janovich.
Yeah.
Oh yes.
Yeah, but I have my Tampa hat on, so I'm representing both.
You got to pick a city, buddy.
I know, I do.
Well,
yeah,
it's also hockey, so who really gives a shit?
You'd be surprised the fandom here for the Lightning.
Yeah, well, because they're good right now. When they're not good, it's non-existent.
I say, yeah, they always say that NHL games, like the live crowd packs out and they're the best. I mean, the Kings do well here. I've seen them down there numerous times.
Yeah.
For us, I think it's a fantasy.
I've seen the fans, but
yeah.
Right.
Oh, they sell out every game here. But I think warm weather people they like to pretend they're in like a an ice place, and
right?
Pack in, and so it's like a little break from reality. I think.
Exactly. Now I know you're a Bulls fan, right?
We don't have much to brag about over the past few years. And that's fine.
Past few years, no, but you got the huge legacy. I mean, I know you probably talked about this on your show, but I mean, you had to have been gushing over The Last Dance.
I knew almost all of that. There wasn't anything really hugely revelatory didn't come from that. I read it in books years ago or firsthand accounts and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. It was nice to relive it, but it was bittersweet, man. I mean, it's been a long time since that run.
Yeah.
And it's been up and down and up and down. And but I still like our future better than yours. So
I do too. So don't worry about that. Don't worry, folks. We're going to get away from sports for a minute, but since you're a basketball guy, I want to get your...
I don't want to go too far.
Yeah, go ahead.
I feel your segue, like Pulp Fiction. I feel your look. I feel the segue. I want to stay on The Last Dance for a second. Michael Jordan's a hell of a personality, isn't he? Like a 1 in a trillion. I mean, the guy is like, I met this guy one day, and he did shake he gave me a weird handshake, and I really took it personal, and it was my mission to destroy him. It's like the guy uses everything to just personally, psychologically beat people, or whatever.
I mean, but to be that good at any sport, everybody has their own way of trying to psych themselves up. Yeah. Jack's story where he created a fake beef with David Robinson.
Mm-hmm.
So Robinson was arguably the nicest guy that maybe has ever played the game. And Shaq made up a story that he would tell himself that was a lie. But he told Robinson, it's like basically F you, because when I was a kid, I tried to get your autograph and you stiffed me.
Oh, man.
So then he would use that as motivation to go at Robinson. He told him, I think, maybe years later or something, but that was the beef. And I think Robinson, more than likely, the whole time was like, I've signed every autograph. I'm the nicest guy. But yeah, whatever. I guess to get motivated at that level, man, you do what you do.
That story is so funny because it only speaks to how nice of a guy David Robinson. That's not even really that big of a slight, so he didn't sign me out. That just only says how good he really is that he actually goes out and signs everybody's autographs.
Well, yeah, the real ones are like Kevin Garnett and Carmelo just saying Honey Nut Cheerios to her. And if you don't know that story, maybe people should look it up. It's
okay.
let's look it up. And then real quick on the basketball subject, I do want to ask, what are your thoughts on them coming back from quarantine? 22 teams coming back, all playing in Orlando. Are you excited for this? What are your thoughts on this?
Well, I think I like the 20-team scenario better personally, and I also like the World Cup doing groups and having the groups have to fight it. Just mix it up. This is 1 year where you could do whatever you wanted to.
Yeah.
Right.
And try and expand. Maybe we like it. Just like the end of All-Star game. I thought that was dumb until I watched it. And it's like, this is riveting.
Right. Yeah. Definitely. Yeah.
Take a chance this year. But yeah, Washington does not deserve to be in the playoff, even in the hunt whatsoever.
Yeah.
Better than everything else the East has to offer.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think they'll be around for long, so I don't think we have to worry too much about that. But,
what's interesting is, so the Disney employees don't have to adhere to the guidelines that everybody else that's NBA affiliated. So there's still a damn good chance that Corona, makes its way into one of these teams.
No, definitely. I mean, the spikes in Florida right now, like they're huge. Like it's increasing every day again now. So yeah, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if I could see this eventually being canceled again because of the spikes that are happening right now, which I really don't want to happen, but it's just the reality right now.
Well, I thought they were aren't they doing empty arenas or?
Well, they are, but I'm just saying though, I mean, all these players are in Florida. They're still going to, I'm sure, go out somewhere, where they can, be among people and, just takes one guy to get it and then the whole team has it.
Well, health risks aside though, entertainment value. Have you guys seen sports without spectators? It's really, really bad. I came across an ESPN thing. It was like some South Korean baseball, and it was it was 5 minutes. I was like, I'll blow my brains out for how boring this is. So even NBA, even your team, without the crowd, I mean, I think the crowd is almost like, I don't know, at least 50% of the enjoyment of watching sports. That rise when they're booing, when they're cheering, when someone hits a three or something like that.
Well, for the players and also for the people watching at home, because, I mean, for the players, it's got to be a crazy difference. But I guess for the people watching at home, I've heard rumors that they're going to add...
pipe in some noise?
Audience sounds from the NBA 2K video game.
Oh, my God.
I think they should play in an empty arena. I think that's a lot better. Don't try and make it artificial, organic.
Right.
Bundesliga, and it's fine without a crowd.
Oh, it is? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, baseball's already boring, and if you take out
That's true.
Yeah.
the random energy the crowd gives you, it's just going to make it worse.
Another thing I have to ask before we segue into the master, basketball to the master. I know you do stand-up comedy and all that. I mean, how has it been in quarantine for a stand-up comic? Are you finding that you're writing more material? What's life like for a stand-up comic right now?
Well, who knows when real performance is coming back? So it's just a weird hiatus that doesn't exist. Because in California, it's probably going to be 2021 before you can open up any of the bigger clubs.
Oh, wow.
Well, otherwise, what? You're going to sit them 6 feet apart, and that, so you're doing shows for 20 to 50, 60 people, I guess, but how much you got to charge them to make it viable for the electricity, the wait staff, the overhead of the food, everything else. It's like, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely something they're going to have to, I mean, not much you can do about it right now. I mean, it's just the way of the world right now, unfortunately. But
yeah, it's insane.
Yeah, but we're here to escape with a movie, a very intense movie, The Master, directed by Paul Thomas Anderson, starring Joaquin Phoenix, Philip Seymour Hoffman.
Yeah.
We got Amy Adams, even Rami Malek makes an appearance in this. The surprise
Jesse Plemons, Laura
Dern. Man, yeah, that's just.
I love that role for Laura Dern. I mean, we'll get to this, but it's just a perfect Laura Dern role, isn't it?
It really is, yeah. Now, I gave you a list of films, Matt. Now, I don't know if just the rest of the films sucked or
you didn't like it.
Yeah.
You only liked one of them.
I'm just curious. Obviously we'll get into the details of the film, but we're just curious. What
we want to know your thought process.
Well,
man.
why'd you choose The Master?
Because I love everything Paul Thomas Anderson by and large.
Yeah.
And scan that list. You had The Phantom Thread as well, and I don't get to talk about his movies as often as you do about superhero films or action films or rom-coms or just the bread and butter stuff. Whereas I don't even know how to technically describe this movie.
I know.
Yeah,
it's a drama, but it's a slice of life. What is it actually about? Like, there's all these different layers and whatnot. It's thought provocative. What I like about Paul Thomas Anderson, takes one thing and then you can apply it in different ways and try. He's just an interesting filmmaker. And don't unfortunately get to talk about him. I mean, we both, John and I, try and squeeze him in as much as possible, but numerous times within a month.
It's so to the point because we had John on and he chose There Will Be Blood. So each of you chose a PTA film to come on here. So maybe you do need to work in his films in your show a little bit more. You guys are looking for a release valve.
But There Will Be Blood comes up because it fits into more things over and over again. You could call it an epic if you want to, just given its size and scope of the landscape and the breadth of time. You can call it like various different things. Whereas Master, because it's not technically L. Ron Hubbard, you can't really do, unless you do fictional history.
Right. I was going to call it a Scientology movie, but it's not really, but kind of. It's like...
They draw parallels too, but it's not a direct, translation of his life.
Right. Yeah.
But it's still interesting as all hell.
I was watching this movie again, and I was scared to do this show because of how, it's very complicated and very, up for interpretation. But that's what we love having fun with, is trying to interpret these things and trying to, kind of analyze them and see what was Paul Thomas Anderson trying to say here. So yeah, it's going to be fun to get into. Now, are you a Joaquin Phoenix guy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
who doesn't?
Yeah, it's tough to find something that he's done that I don't like. Outside of Parenthood, I'm not the biggest fan of, but that's not his fault.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
I mean, it's a good movie, but I don't go back to rewatch it because it's depressing to me.
It's a very depressing movie.
It is. Everybody's storyline is like they're all going through. It's real life, but it's like, fuck, man.
It's a tragedy. Yeah.
So, I mean, with this movie, I mean, obviously we have Joaquin Phoenix playing Freddie Quill, who's a Navy veteran just coming home from World War II. And we right away get to see what this guy's all about. First of all, he's very horny.
He's an animal.
Yeah, he is absolutely an animal. And
he was going to town on that sand sculpture. I mean, making sure she knew what was going on there.
Yes, and then that's where we get the first kind of jack off scene with
into the ocean, buddy.
Just right into the ocean. No big
cleans
deal.
itself.
Yeah, it does. But
No
what do you these? First of all, I got to jump right to these concoctions he makes. With the fuel. Like, is he using torpedo fuel in that first
Matt,
scene?
I'd like to know what you think of this. Just the first, I've seen this movie maybe 3-4 times, maybe even more partially, and I don't know what's with the drinking of the chemicals. it still surprises me every single time. Did you ever read on this? Is it just bizarre? I don't know.
What, that someone's drinking chemicals?
Gasoline? Yeah.
No, because you read stories about people that huff gas or they drink this, that, the other. Think of the guys that are trying to cook up their newest version of meth right now.
Right. Yeah.
Failed out of high school and suddenly you have a chemistry degree. So it's not. And when you think of how many people join the Navy, especially for a cause like that, you're going to have a wide spectrum of personalities. So, look, to get high in some regard, he found, instead of drinking turpentine or paint thinner or whatever else he needed, he's taking fuel from God knows what, mixing it together, diluting it with some water and drinking that up.
Yeah, and when he was a photographer, he was drinking whatever the developing fluid.
Yeah, the
is.
developing
just, really
stuff,
any
like,
chemical I can get my hand on, just throw it down, see what happens.
Yeah, that has an alcohol fucking element to it.
Yeah.
I assume that because the Philip Seymour Hoffman character gets kind of drawn into this concoction, the potion, as he calls it. My assumption is that there's some hallucinogenic effect. It's not just drunk. It must, because it literally is a poison
right.
on some level, just as alcohol is too.
Right.
It does make you feel a certain way. So this must be it must give you some other kind of high that you don't get from just drinking or something like that.
Now, I did hear an interview, I think it was on Mark Maron's podcast with Paul Thomas Anderson. He added that, I think, because he heard of a friend of his dad's that used like paint thinner or something, and he would actually drank paint thinner, something like that. I might have the details a little wrong there, but yeah, that's kind of where that came from. But yeah, I can't imagine that. It's just I can barely take down whiskey. So then
and also we start with, always in these Paul Thomas Anderson films, some anxiety-inducing score, right? Just something that just sets you on edge, just like There Will Be Blood a little bit. I think I'm not exactly sure how Phantom Thread started, which I love that movie, by the way, Matt.
That started with an elaborate score.
Yeah, just something that's just getting you in a weird headspace, So I love that.
Yeah. And then, so he's, Navy man, gets out of the Navy, he's going through what I call now processing after, going through the Philip Seymour Hoffman stuff and everything, the guys are showing him. He's like, that looks like a pussy. That looks like
a
dick,
doing the Rorschach test.
Right.
Everything. That looks like a dick going into a pussy. That just looks like a dick.
I gotta admit, it kind of did.
The last one? Yeah. Oh, look, you can make it look like whatever you want to, but that one, it's like, yeah, I guess it's a pointy dick, but it's a dick.
Yeah. And in a weird way, I think it actually did tie into the story, because I think it is saying something about suggestion and putting things into your mind in a way, and that we'll see that later on.
Well,
with
yeah,
the
with
Seymour Hoffman
the processing scene with Philip Seymour Hoffman. It's definitely a juxtaposition with that. It's he's processing with the Navy people, and then he's processing with him. But obviously, we have a lost soul here. He's now has a job after he goes to processing with photography at like a old Macy's or a mall or something like that. And that's, like you said, he gets concoctions from that.
There's a little bit of that relationship with that girl.
Yeah.
It was like a walking model,
right,
sort of thing, which I thought was cool. I'd never seen that before. Like in reality, I've only seen it in that movie.
Yeah,
I didn't even know that was a thing. And they kind of they're gonna hook up or whatever, and they go out to dinner, and he's passed out.
Yep.
Just can't handle his stuff, and then he's taking that picture for that one guy. And I don't even know what sets him off. He starts moving the lights into his face, and then it's just like a brawl in the store. It's like, what the hell is happening here?
Well, if you pay attention, you listen in the background, you can hear a baby screaming. And I think that's what starts to like kind of set him off a little bit. And the movies, you could look at it from or through one prism that he's searching for a sense of belonging. Mm-hmm. And a tribe of his own. And every person that he takes a picture of is their families, and they have this nuclear unit that he's looking for. So maybe it's just he couldn't deal with another one of these guys that has, in his eyes, a perfect life, and there's a baby crying in the background. He doesn't have his own shit, and he just kind of snaps.
Well, yeah, that's interesting too, actually. Now that I think about it, I mean, you have that guy. He's a lone guy because, I mean, the other pictures were, 3 kids and then a couple. It's always people together. And then you got this lone man here who, is taking a picture, and he kind of snaps at that. And then when he gets to that, I don't know what they're cutting, like cabbage field. Is that what that was?
They look like heads of cabbage or something.
And he's, giving drinks to this one guy, and he says, you look like my dad. Like he's trying to get a connection, with this guy, but he's just like, no, I'll just drink your potion and, and, not worry about you.
To Matt's point too, that is interesting about the whole idea, because that's one of the questions that Philip Seymour Hoffman asked him, was just this idea of envy. That was one of the first questions during the processing. So and he, of course, he's in denial and says no. So that would make sense that he's observing this almost. Well, he's in this like picturesque department store where everything is beautiful and nice and calm, and he just can't take it because he knows he just doesn't fit in. It gnaws at him, and he knows he doesn't belong here. And seeing the people sort of living a normal life that he can't really live.
Can't relate to, doesn't understand how you achieve that. The processing questions, they all, by and large, fit him to a T, as if Simon had sized him up already. And you could tell, like, okay, he's more guttural. You can make certain assumptions about the guy and kind of feel it out, and see if you're right. But some of those questions were so incisive. Like, have you ever slept with a family member? Have you ever killed someone? No. He's going to get the answer that he wants to try and draw him in and create this sense of trust between the two of them. And it's what keeps coming up over and over and over is like they seem to be bodies, like satellites orbiting one another. Right. Likes Freddy, and he can, Hoffman, science, L. Ron Hubbard, I can't remember the character's name, has the ability to alienate those around him. He wins them back over with charisma.
Dodd, I believe it is, right?
Sorry. Yeah, the two of them are
Lancaster Dodd. Sorry,
Lancaster Dodd. They just have a certain gravity between the two of them that nobody else really does within the movie.
Yeah. Right, and then that's they have this connection, as you were saying. They have this some sort of almost like telepathic in a way, even though that's more like E.T., that's
he's like,
Elliot and E.T.
You sleep with a family member? I was like, oh yeah, actually I slept with my aunt. My aunt too.
Yeah. She looked good. I was drunk and she looked good.
I've been there.
But yeah, like you said, I mean, there's definitely something there. I mean, you even have Hoffman saying, I've met you before, I know you before. So there's this theme of, a different, obviously it ties into, the whole religion / cult, that he's forming. But this theme of your past life, your past, we can tap into the past and everything like that. So, I mean, that keeps coming up throughout the film.
Yeah. So maybe this is a good time. Because I was thinking about this watching the movie, is to ask both of you what you think of this concept. This is the idea that we are spirits, and our bodies is going along with the thesis of Lancaster Dodd, whether he believed it or not. I assume he was genuine, but that we are these bodies that inhabit these immortal spirits that are ancient and have lived, whatever flowery language you want to use, from galaxies away. Do you guys does this comport with any of your life beliefs, or does it sound like bullshit or something close to the truth? I'm sure this thought must have crossed your mind when as you watch this film over and over. No?
I mean, like if believing in that helps you be a good person, then by all means believe whatever you'd like to. I don't really care, because you can say it's a variation of reincarnation.
Essentially, yeah.
But this is one spirit. Instead of attaining the highest level of being eventually, this one is you need to free yourself from the Thetans, their version of the Thetans or whatever it is. These people from trillions of years ago that enslaved all of us, our souls within our bodies. Like I don't know. I couldn't tell you.
No. But I'm saying, I mean, I'm not asking you to like prove whether the religion is correct. But do you believe? Do you guys have any sense of spirituality? Do you think this is? Do you ever have these thoughts? Because sometimes I do. I'm not saying I believe in this, but
I'll say that I mean, I think they chose a perfect actor with Philip Seymour Hoffman because he's so charismatic and convincing that it's like. Oh,
it has an appeal, right?
Right, yeah. It's like, wow, okay, I can see what you.
It makes you feel important.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And I mean, to a degree, I mean, I think that's what a lot of religions do is tell you what you want to hear and try to comfort you and everything like that. I'm not saying anything against that or anything,
right?
But yeah, I mean that's kind of what he's doing, and I think again, Philip Seymour Hoffman, man, he's great. This was a perfect casting for this role because he's just something about him is just enthralling.
But I think that story, to your point, Matt, is that people do get comfort in this story. This is okay. Now my life makes sense. Okay, so I was this person, and I have that one lady. What does she think she was? Some royalty or something?
Yeah,
some years past.
That's always what it is, though. My previous life, I've never heard of. I was a janitor. Like you never hear those stories. Yeah, exactly.
I was actually a murderer in another life.
I was a rapist.
Yeah, it's never anything along those lines. It's like, okay, well, whether or not it's true, I couldn't tell you. And I'll never know the answer to that question.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Well, yeah.
So whatever the case may be. But what I find to your point of Hoffman being such a good casting is I have always been inquisitive of how do those individuals start? And then how do they lure more people in? And how do they grow this where you created a religion out of nowhere and managed to get being around Smith, what is it? Is it Adam Smith, the creator of Mormonism?
Joseph, I believe.
Joe Smith, there you go. Or John Smith, something.
Or John. Joseph or John. It's a J.
You could tell me any name and you could
I get so much hate here.
Yeah.
You can tell me any name and I'd believe you.
But it's just like how you started, you created, you found the New Testament and people went, okay. Just like how does that begin? Show me. So you see someone like Hoffman, it's just like, dude, he is magnetic and charismatic. The bad things that come, like the guy that questions him at that party.
Oh, that scene, yeah.
Yeah, it's uncomfortable for everybody, and they just want it to end. And Hoffman just commands that room to such a degree.
Yeah, you think he might have gotten destroyed by like some kind of a rationalist sort of line of questioning, but he isn't. He stands his ground, and because and I guess maybe just to go back a bit about are we not to say something about the Thetans or whatever, but because the other answer is if there is no spirituality, then it's just pure materialism, and we're just these beings that live and die, and that's it. And so that's not all that reassuring either. So, and that's what makes someone who can tell you to give you that other way of thinking, it does have that appeal, and even under rational attack, it can still withstand it. There's just, obviously, because we have religions all over the place.
So right. That's how you withstand logical attacks and be like, I don't care. That just reinforces my stance. Which now there's been numerous studies that have come out and be like, yeah, when someone is confronted with an opinion that flies in the face of theirs, they just put up greater defenses. You're like,
right, yeah, right. You dig in further, yeah. There are no changing minds.
That's the first almost. I don't want to say first flaw, but almost first, because the whole time we're seeing Philip Seymour Hoffman, being charismatic and all that, but then when he gets challenged by what he believes and what he's teaching, that's when he flips. He's just like, eventually, I love the line. He calls him a pig fuck.
Oh yeah,
That's when he finally snaps. He's held his composure this entire time. He's eloquent. He is making his points, and then ultimately he just drops down into the mud like everybody else.
I mean, for shits and giggles, I mean, do you think at that moment he knows it's bullshit, but he's just defending it still just because
of course
this guy's challenging?
Of course. Because the guy's asking him logical questions, and there's no response because he hasn't done the science behind it.
Right.
There is no proof. Like when they're Joaquin and Hoffman are yelling at each other in the jail cell, and they've got that. It's a beautiful 2-shot.
Oh, it's amazing.
Joaquin is like, it's bullshit. What facts? What facts? And he's like, I've given you facts. He's like, facts? What facts? Just over and over because you haven't. You just sold a story, and people got into the story.
Right. Yeah, and then in that moment, I mean, you got Joaquin doing that, and him staying calm about it because he knows who Joaquin is. He knows he's lesser than him, and he can totally manipulate this guy because he's lost. I mean, I do think the big theme about this movie is being someone who's lost and needing someone to guide them through life. That's definitely a big theme of this movie.
It's interesting because the question of, is Lancaster Dodd a fraud or a knowing fraud? And I think both of you made great points, which is that he never really even couches his language with something as simple as saying, well, it's a matter of faith or something, just to allow some doubt. He essentially asserts these things as a scientific fact, which opens yourself. I mean, at least in other words, maybe you just allow yourself some leeway by saying, we're not 100% sure. This is what I think. No, but he's like, this is history, kind of a thing. And getting exposed like that, I think, maybe he knew this was all bullshit. It's like, well, I was just a science fiction writer, which is L. Ron Hubbard, right? That's the criticism of him. I just wrote sci-fi and then came up with a religion along the way.
Well, I mean, even back to the point of Hoffman being a great casting. I mean, you can link this to politicians. What they're saying, people are following them because of how charismatic they are.
Yeah.
Certain politicians, they're following them because they're so charismatic. They sound like they know what they're talking about. It must be true, because they're so sure about it. So he definitely, there's comparisons there as well.
I do want to mention about the processing because we talked about this again, but there might be some value in that, not for the reasons that they're doing in the movie, but the kind of pointed questions. I did feel like that in the film is the idea of trying to get someone to know themselves and break down. I mean, this is a movie about trying to break someone down completely, not for great purposes, because he has a weird feeling for Joaquin Phoenix here, which I don't think is completely normal. I don't think he's completely trying to help him. There is something there about them, orbiting each other. And, I guess it was later explained in the movie that they knew each other back in the Pigeon Post or something in France. Maybe that explains it all.
Well, according to Dowd, they knew each other. I finally figured it out.
Yeah.
Like, oh, okay. And what was it? All but 83 of the 85 balloons we sent over. Of course. You weren't shelled on day one. No. You had some glorious thing. It could be a operation. And okay.
Is that? I mean, might as well just jump into it because we don't worry about chronological here. We can go back to other stuff. But at the end there, I mean, is that him? Is that Dodd trying to just make him feel better that, hey, you had a good life before, and you can stay here, and you can continue with the cause. They keep calling it the cause. He's not the master; he's master, and he's. Is he trying to make him feel better? Because after, he says, if you leave, we're going to be, in the next life, we're going to be sworn enemies.
Yeah. Well, I think Hoffman, one of the reasons he likes him is because of his unyielding loyalty. He is basically a leashed dog. And Hoffman can let him off the leash whenever he wants to, and Joaquin will attack whatever he is told. And to have that fierce loyalty around you is more than likely hard to come by in his world because people come and go. Mm-hmm. So I just assume he's trying to manipulate him one final time of it's one or the other. It's black and white. You can never leave again and come back. Like we were mortal enemies, just trying to kind of browbeat him back into the loyalty that he used to show.
That's a great point. But what do you think is happening in that motorcycle scene when he says, pick a point, and then Joaquin Phoenix just keeps going and going and going? He lets him off the leash there, in a sense. I mean, what do you think is happening there?
It's like when my dog sees a rabbit off the leash and she goes until, until she can't catch the rabbit anymore.
He thought he had trained that dog, and that dog just showed up. He didn't. No, he didn't. Yeah, it was. Yeah, I love it when he's just like, he cups, makes a visor with his fingers over his eyes to look out over the horizon. You're just waiting for the line of like, man, he's gone really far. Just for a little comedic something or other. Of course, they don't do that.
No.
I just love the little, subtleties in acting. Like even, the actors choose like Hoffman, like again, he's
such a presence.
Yeah, such a presence. And like, I think watching a movie in subtitles really helps because, when he's about to yell to, what's his name? I know it's Joaquin, but Freddie Quell. He's about to yell to him. The subtitles say inhales, and he's about to yell, but then he pauses, and then he yells. Like I don't know, just some certain like little subtleties like that in acting. Just I don't know.
Like he doesn't want to be a madman.
Yeah,
but he's still so pissed.
Yeah.
So he's trying to hold back.
Yeah, he still yells at him. But it's like dude, he cannot hear you.
Trust me,
It was like when Dowd's daughter was cheering when he was on it. And he's like, he's
right.
far away. You're just doing this for yourself.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. It's.
I don't think I said this. Good.
I was going to say, I love that within the family that they all have different personalities around him. Because like his wife is just as devoted. The daughter wants nothing more than the approval of her father.
Yeah.
One thinks it's all bullshit. But it's a job, like type of thing.
Yeah, he's still there when we go back to England. He's still there in a suit, working at the school, whatever the hell the school is. I'm not sure what that is.
I'm sure he makes good money doing whatever he does for them. And it's just like
whatever it is.
What do you guys? What's the scene with the singing and the dancing, and then all of a sudden, Freddie? I keep wanting to say Peter Quill, but that's Guardians of the Galaxy. Freddie Quill. He starts imagining all the women naked during that. Like, what is that scene? What is your take on that?
I'll just quickly say I thought it was just him and that's his animal. That's how he sees the world, as from like his animal brain is how he sees women. Essentially, he views the world differently than most of us, and that's young, old, whatever. It's something I want to fuck constantly. That's my thought.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's nail on the head for me too. Which is I can't find any other subtext to it that my brain can come up with an essence that rings as true.
One, I think the exercise between the wall and the window. Do you guys have any? Did you guys get a key to unlock that?
Like the processing scene, on the boat. Like I felt more with that because it was just like it made sense and like he's totally given his emotions. And by the way, do you guys try not to blink during that scene too?
Oh, it's impossible. I'm blinking within a half a second.
When I saw him in the theater the first time, as soon as he announced that, I was so engaged. I did it in the theater. I didn't make it.
Yeah.
I've tried every time I've watched it. I've gone further than others, but you're making it and then eventually just like this. Okay.
I tried turning the ceiling fan off, still didn't help.
Right.
But don't you think the wall and glass thing was okay? So at the end of the first session, you could see Joaquin instantly buying into this world.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that Hoffman needed him to kind of recommit emotionally and mentally. And when he finally tells Freddie to stop at the end and they break down and they hug, he almost slinks into him because he needs the stability of Hoffman, both mentally and physically in that moment. I think it's just about that. It's reestablishing that strong connection they had before and to get him to buy into this, because it's also within that sequence when the girl grabs his leg and in the middle of Hoffman's talking, and for the first time, he turned off his animal brain because he is engaged within this, and Hoffman put his meat hooks into him. So I just thought it was that. It's part of the brainwashing.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean that's definitely what a lot of this, most of this is brainwashing. You get that scene. I wish I knew the actress's name. She's from Workaholics.
Don't ever name.
Anyways,
Oh, by the way, we mentioned just real quick because Amy Adams is in this film as Lancaster Dodd's wife.
Yep.
How great is she? Like in any movie, no matter what, she has this something about the way she is, or the way she carries herself. She can either be young or old.
Right.
She works as his wife, not as clearly he's older than her, but it doesn't. I don't know. She just has a way of fitting into every circumstance she's in as an actress. She's so great.
that's kind of how I feel about Hoffman too. I mean, he could fit. I mean, he's more, he looks old, but I think him and Joaquin Phoenix, he's like a father figure to Joaquin Phoenix, but I think in real life they're like 7 years apart. Like Philip Seymour Hoffman's like 7 years older than him.
Oh, really?
Well, I don't
God
know.
Rest his soul.
Yeah, seriously. I mean, obviously he was going through a lot of stuff in his personal life and all that. Died of overdose and just
so sad.
Yeah. I wish we were getting more movies of his. So
I've got two questions.
If unless you guys have something you wanted to get to now.
No. Go
Okay,
ahead.
jump in. All right. So sort of back to, no, not quite, but back to the glass in the wall, though it might relate. There's this idea of freedom, which is the sea, right? We hear that a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And then the prison of being on land, sort of a thing.
Yeah.
And of course, Joaquin Phoenix he's free in the sea, and when he goes on land, it feels like a prison. And then there's also there's the freedom of your spirit in this movie, and the prison is sort of your body, right?
Yeah.
That kind of a thing. So it's kind of like going back and forth and being able to, I think, find a balance. And I wonder even if the glass window in the wall is sort of like that too. The glass window is like freedom, your imagination. The wall is like the thing that closes on you that you can't get through or something
And
like that.
that's what he punches and,
Right. It never goes. So I think there's those two things going against each other, and we've seen it in a few different ways, which then leads you to, if you can't find that balance within yourself in some way, because clearly Freddie can't. Question is if even Lancaster Dodd can, but the idea of, do you need a master, which we get the speech at the end of the film. Everybody serves some kind of a master, and Freddie's determined to not serve a master, although if you want to call it turpentine or whatever, that could possibly be one. Though he seemed more sober at the end. But what do you guys think of all that, of everything I said, or at least just the idea of somebody serves some master of some sort, right? It could be a Lancaster Dodd. It could be alcohol. It could be money. It could be, I don't know, it could be your wife even or something. But what do you guys think of that? Is it possible to live without a master?
I'll let you
Conceptually.
I'll let you take this one, Matt.
Okay.
I mean, when you open it up to be the umbrella for any kind of, whether it's actual responsibility or vice or whatnot, then everybody serves a master at that point.
Yeah.
Whatever you succumb to, even if it's like video games. There are times when you're jonesing to play video games. You want to get back to whatever you just bought. You've been so enraptured in the storyline or whatever the case is. I mean, Hoffman, I don't think is technically wrong, although Freddie is willing to give it a shot.
Yeah, he is.
That little bit of hope when he looks back at him through his, like he's looking up through his right and he's just like, fuck you. It's a chance I'm willing to take, man. You're
I
like,
made it this far.
you finally grew up. Like there's welcome to adulthood.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I think it's accurate.
Yeah, definitely. And, to your point about the sea and the land, we see the shot of the blue water with the engine,
churning
making
up,
churning it up, about 3 or 4 times in the film. So it's definitely, he's definitely saying something about, being at sea, being, your own man, being, you're that. But yeah, I mean, I think this movie is trying to convey that it's not, because he's going to be a slave to his master of alcohol his whole life. He's going to be a slave to the master of his sexual fantasies his whole life. I mean, obviously, I shouldn't say his whole life. I mean, maybe he can be fixed. Maybe there's hope for him. But if we narrow it down to that, yes, he's never going to find something that's not his master. But if we're not narrowing it down to that, this guy is totally going down his own path. I mean, I think that's why he rode down in the motorcycle in that game. I think that's why he just kept going, because he's his own man, as you said about that quote at the end, I love that. It says, if you find a way to live without a master, please let me know, because you'll be the only man to ever have done that.
So does it mean accepting? Does it mean it's not just the thing maybe about my vices though, but just accepting that there is maybe something above me? I mean, and not that it should be a person necessarily. We wouldn't want someone to tell you what to do all the time,
Right?
but there maybe is something above you that kind of I don't know how to. I'm trying to think of it in a stronger way than just pure vice or
Right.
or addiction. Some other form there. I think that's what it's trying to say. I'm a little bit lost for words, but I think there might be something more there.
Yeah, I think you can apply it however you so choose. So, without a doubt, you could have a religious connotation with that.
Yeah.
It's interesting about the wall versus glass as a juxtaposition of being on the sea versus being on land. I hadn't thought of it like that. And he's carefree on the boat. Now we also see it post-war. I mean, the war's in essence done because they're not in any kind of action or whatnot. So perhaps he's a little bit more carefree, and the boat does now signify, because he made it to the end,
Yeah.
a happy place. But during its time, I mean, I can't imagine. What did he say? How many battle commendations when he's having that little tete-a-tete with Rami Malek?
It was like 13 or something crazy.
Yeah. They got 3 Bronze Stars or something, or as a ship. So they saw definite combat.
Yeah, horrific.
I think of it the inverse. Like, there is the open sea and all that, but you're confined to the small aspect of the space that you're on.
Mm-hmm.
I read books about seafarers, whatnot. I've read all the, Magellan, all that jazz, Captain Cook, and then modern day. And I've got 2 family members that are in the Navy out on boats. It's like, I don't know how you do it though. That's why I read about it. Couldn't live on a boat for 6 months. And back in the day, a year and a half, 2 years, maybe you die on this thing. Like, I don't know how you do that. That's not for me. That's prison.
Yeah, no way. Yeah.
Definitely not.
There's a bit of irony there, right? Because you're out in the open ocean, but yet you're confined to this small area.
Right, and that maybe that's why he drew on to, or glommed onto this cause, to begin with, because when he first is introduced to it, it's on a boat. It's on open seas. He's learning about it in open seas, does his processing in open seas. So I mean, I think that's definitely a strong point about there's definitely something here with the sea versus the land. That's 100% true. And I mean, you look at all the land in front of him in that motorcycle scene. He just wants to go. You know, it's. Good point, Dave. Good point.
So
for once, no.
But maybe if we can maybe get into criticism a little bit, it is a little, well, to call this movie unclear, I think is a little bit of an understatement. And I think one of them is Lancaster Dodd. I mean, as much as we've talked about him being that L. Ron Hubbard figure, it never really takes the plunge into it. It kind of dances around it, and I don't know. I don't want to speculate if that was pressure from the studio or not, because we know Scientology is big in Hollywood, I guess. By the way, Matt, just a few minutes in Clearwater, south of us, before we started, I'd said that was a sort of a city nearby us. The spiritual headquarters of Scientology is right there in Clearwater, so they have a presence here as well. But I just wanted to say, I don't know. He's not a scam artist, really. He's not stealing from anyone.
Right.
I think the city of Philadelphia begs to disagree with that. He lost $11,000 plus $1,500 for damage to the boat, and 1955. So what is that 11,000 worth in today's money?
Yeah, that probably would have been a lot more.
But was it someone who lent him, a follower who lent him the boat, and he just stayed too long on it?
No, he was practicing medicine. Practicing medicine without a license, I think, was the main charge. Was that just I was going to call it auditing, but processing? Is that essentially what?
I think the gray area they're talking about is he had to pay back the foundation. So the foundation made a charitable contribution to him as either a religion or something along those lines, and it was technically illegal, and that's where they had the power to go. That's my assumption.
Okay.
That he illegally... they went through knowing full well you can't do this, but it's like, we're a religion type of.
Okay. So maybe, yeah. I would have liked a little more. So, okay, so that was, okay, so I'll take what I said back a little bit, but I felt like I would have liked a little bit more I didn't feel like he was a cult leader to me. I just thought he was a guy who people found enchanting and gave them a good explanation for their lives and were willing to give him his money. And in this case, he went a little bit too far with it. But I don't know. Maybe I read that wrong.
That book reveal in Phoenix or whatever, there was definitely punch there. So, very much a cult leader, you know. And
That's true.
for people to be invited, that's dicey territory as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I mean, I totally got the vibe of cult and cult leader. You know, just especially when he was defending quote unquote his cause to that guy in the mansion. You know, it's.
All right, so 2 against 1.
I think the Laura Dern, when she asks him about when you're supposed to ask, you know, this word, like that changes the whole connotation of meaning. And when he defends it with, you know, kind of a how dare you,
he erupts.
Yeah, that's to me that you're not basing this on facts, so it's a cult.
Right. Yeah, definitely. And yeah, I mean, and that, like you were saying, like it's a perfect character for Laura Dern. Like it felt like such a Laura Dern thing to say, like nitpick and be like, "Well, doesn't this change?" You know, but she's right. I mean, it definitely changed.
Yeah, she does.
Before it's like you're trying to go after, like, you know, can you recall for me? And now it's can you imagine? Well, imagine is be real, or they can be utterly fiction.
Oh yeah, so that's when maybe he, as I said earlier, that's when he started hedging his bets a little bit, as to terms of like, you know, pure science into
right.
He buried this thing in the desert for how long? I mean, it's not a continuous work. He just put it in a chest. I don't know what the heck is going on with that.
Yeah. His unpublished work that Rami Malek was afraid that. You know, because he said, like, how much is something like that worth? And speaking of Rami Malek, I love that scene when, you know, when they're going back and forth, him and Joaquin, with Philip Seymour Hoffman there. 3 on screen. We got 3 lead Oscar winners now. But anyway, I love you know, he keeps saying Doris, and he says, "Don't say it again." And then like Seymour Hoffman's like, you know, you can't react to anything. He says, "Don't say it again," and then Rami Malek's like, "Doris." Like, I don't know, the way it was delivered. I don't know if it was meant to be comedic, but it just it got to me. It was funny.
There actually were some funny moments in this film, I think, because the tension is so high,
right? Yeah,
throughout, and it is a lot of pitting people like directly psychologically against each other. It's going on, in this film constantly, and I think that's probably the most compelling thing about it. And to have, and again, to go back a little bit, to have someone asking you pointed questions, and eventually, if they keep and then the repetition of it, right? Because someone asks you once, you're like, no, I didn't sleep with my aunt. Come on, man. And then you ask me the third time, like, yeah, like she's looking good, and I did it. But you know, it is a way of breaking you down. And I guess the question is, you know, if I get broken, how good is it to be broken down to the point where I can find something within myself, or are you taking advantage of me?
Yeah,
kind of a thing.
Definitely.
I think in that instance, it's breaking down his exterior for him to open up into accepting whatever I try and tell him after that. So
is Freddie Quell a hero?
Yeah, are we meant to like?
Yeah, I don't know who I like here in this movie.
Who are we rooting for?
No one, really.
Is there a protagonist? Is there an antagonist?
Not really.
Yeah.
I mean, you're following Freddie's storyline, so, you know, you want him to get out safe, but yeah, you're not pulling for the guy.
So here's what I struggle with. Is this a good movie? And I'm just laying it out here I'm putting my cards on the table here. I struggle with that because there are scenes that I love, and then there are things I don't love and don't understand and don't know what the point of it is. And the movie stretches out for a long period of time. So and I've seen this movie, you know, what I said, 4 or 5 times, something like that, and I enjoy it every time I watch it. But I do struggle with this fundamental question: is this a good movie? So I'll leave that to you two.
Well, that's for you to decide. You know?
I don't know. I'm still waffling. I feel like.
I think we should cut Dave's mic off because you're after this is just null and void. In my eyes, I love this movie. There's nothing that P.T. Anderson makes that I'm not, by and large, a huge fan of. I like
head out.
It leads us to having this kind of conversation. Can
Right.
you do this with Die Hard? Can you do this with other movies that we love, but it doesn't provoke in you the philosophical questions, okay, well, you're talking about the spiritual aspect of what do you believe in? What do you take for truth? Would you allow this, accept this in your life type of thing? Whereas other times it's just fucking Transformers and shiny shit blowing up in front of you.
Right.
There's nothing wrong with that, but
Yeah, we've tried to do and we still do, but action movies and comedies, try to talk about those on the show. But there's just so much we'll quote and stuff. We'll just make a bunch of quotes on comedies and just talk about the set pieces in action movies. But yeah, this movie, it's not cut and dry. And I think that's purposeful. I love art that
just
makes you think.
There Will Be Blood isn't cut and dry either, and there is really no clear protagonist or antagonist exactly. But you do see you're sort of studying a character, and so I think that movie is a better movie than this one. So I think there's more there, and There Will Be Blood. Not to say that there's plenty here in this film,
right?
So I think it's a step below, I guess, is what I'll say, if I'm allowed to speak, man.
I haven't heard you. I don't know why I'm responding to a question. But I think within There Will Be Blood, Plainview is clearly the guy that you're rooting for, even though he's a despicable individual.
Yeah,
I wanted him to bludgeon Paul Dano at the end. I loved the ending. I thought that movie was great.
Yeah.
Well, here's what I'll say. I actually, and maybe this is a disturbing reveal, but I think I said this in the show. I actually see a little bit of myself in Daniel Plainview, just a bit. I do see it. That anger, that frustration, or something like that, or just a little. I do see that rage inside of him. Whereas I have a hard time identifying with these characters in this film.
I get that too. I mean, you do, they're exaggerated versions. These kind of characters are exaggerated versions of what you might. How your personality might be sometimes, how someone might be sometimes. They are exaggerated versions of that in not Peter Quill. I keep doing that.
Oh, I hate
Freddie Quill.
I hate you.
Freddie Quill, he could be an exaggeration of, someone who suffers from addiction, someone who, is a lost soul trying to find their way in this world,
It is addiction, right? Yeah. Chemicals and sex and all that stuff, yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
And then, I guess, Lancaster Dodd has some sort of addiction, too, to the praise of people, to say anything, to get their adoration and their cash, that kind of a thing.
Plainview exists in a world that you can understand, and he's someone that you may have known. Whereas I've never met L. Ron Hubbard, and I've never met anybody like Freddie Quill.
Yeah.
It's hard for me to identify with them because they're anomalies to me within society. Whereas Plainview, I've known guys that are kind of like that.
Right.
Just ruthless and cutthroat, and this is my ultimate goal, and their motivation, just like, so be it. So I think that disconnect of you not being able to identify with them was intentional.
Yeah.
At least.
But to your point, it did make me think, am I an ancient spirit? So that I had not had that thought in a long time.
I think the most likable character in that is his son, because he's like, it's all bullshit. And you're like, this kid seems.
Yeah, what do you say? He's making it up as he goes along or something?
Yeah, he's the audience in that moment.
He's a guy just like, it's interesting to watch, but it's utter horseshit. You're like, all right, well, I can identify with that.
Right. Definitely. One of the last things I want to mention is Doris haunting him? Is this Doris? is this someone he's trying to get to?
That's a good question.
Is this,
What's with this Doris thing?
Yeah, because, he that's the vision he gets when he's in processing. That's the comforting vision he gets.
Underage Doris, by the way.
Yeah. We're going to, I guess it was okay. It was okay.
It was a different time. It was a different time.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, they didn't do anything, and he's going to war, so by the time he got back, she would have been 18, 19.
Yeah, so we good.
Yeah.
But no, but yeah, Doris. I mean, there's definitely something there. I mean, because after he rides off with the motorcycle, he tries to go to her house. Her mom's there, and he's trying to talk to her. Doris is married now, and he's kind of distraught about that. So yeah, there's
Is that the master he never quite got, or like the grounding that he could never quite get to or something. I don't want to call it a master, but I'm trying to think of, something that could tame you. Because Lancaster Dodd, in a way, like the dog on the leash thing, Matt, he couldn't quite tame him. He could put him on the leash, but he didn't, if you took him off the leash, he'd run away. So was he yearning for something, a compassionate, and we see that sex scene at the end, and that seemed very different, right? The interaction going on there, that tenderness he was getting.
He seemed like an adult.
Yeah. Was that
the first time?
Was that essentially a yearning inside of him for to complete himself as a person, kind of a thing? Maybe that's it.
Yeah. I just took so I put myself in his shoes when he was like, when he broke down and said Doris, and then understanding that motivation is he couldn't go back to her because he didn't like who he'd become. And that's more than likely what propelled his drinking. That with we see him early on with the army saying, you have PTSD. They don't, so
shell shock or whatever. Yeah.
Shell shock be World War I. I don't know what they called it. Battle fatigue.
Okay.
By the time World War II was done. So whatever, we've seen it in numerous movies. Like, you ever seen Mudbound?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So they're drinking after they get back because they can't reacclimate yet. And the society at large didn't understand that you would come back and bring these war wounds with you. The scars carry with you and they take time to heal. So he was kind of a destroyed individual. And that's why he didn't go back to her, is because he didn't like who he was and what he'd become. And that's the idealized version of how everything would have turned out great had I been with her. And then once he's matured and gotten out and grown up a little bit, he jets off on that motorcycle. He's finally willing to basically move on with his life. And she's already moved on with hers. I just put myself in his shoes and be like, I'm assuming that's why he did this.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Yeah. And it is a bit sad, right? I mean, because he's been flirting with. Meanwhile, he's wasting how many years with Lancaster Dodd? 7, 8, something like that.
Yeah, I don't know exactly how.
It's a long time.
Yeah. She was. How old was Doris? 23 when.
Yeah, and she was 16 when he got out.
So
of the
7 years.
Yeah,
long time.
Yeah,
and Dowd 7 years. That's a long time.
Yeah, definitely. And then. The phone call in the movie theater was a dream, right? That he received, like the London.
I didn't understand. I've never seen such a thing in my life.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Well, you're watching, and you're like, "Is that shit? They did that? They did that?
How would he know he's in the theater?"
Yeah. Well, he keeps asking, and then when they, shows up. So when he shows up in England, there is that like, "Why are you here? What did you expect to get out of this?" And almost as though he didn't call, but then, Quill mentions when you were on the phone, you were going to tell me where we came, where we knew each other from. So there's the acknowledgement that Hoffman did make the phone call. So I don't know. Because dream makes a lot of sense, but then there's confirmation, I believe, later on that it happened. So
or are they just connected spiritually, guys? Come on. Open up your spiritual brains.
Could be. Who knows?
Now, all real.
Did any of you guys run to 7-Eleven and buy a pack of Cools after seeing this film?
No. I smoked in high school every once and again. I did not for a long time.
I love the minty taste.
And then, the last kind of scene, besides the sex scene that you mentioned, is Lancaster Dodd singing to Peter Quill, which I liked the scene. I felt a lot in it. I don't really know what he was trying to say. Like, I want to send you down. I forget how the song goes. My little China doll or something. I forget.
Yeah, I want to.
I don't know what was going on in the scene.
China, basically, I want to sing with you type of to China.
I think this would have been a good time to put the credits on.
Yeah, Philip
singing.
I liked it. I thought Philip Seymour Hoffman was great at it. Like it captivated me. Like Joaquin Phoenix emotion while he's singing it. I don't know. It just it felt like a fitting end to them because Philip Seymour Hoffman's character is so like. Everything's an applause after, like when they wrestle after Peter Quill.
Yeah.
Oh, I said Peter Quill. When they wrestle after Freddie Quell gets out of jail, he's, they wrestle a little bit, which is weird. And then they get up and he claps like, yes. Like he's such a showman, which, we were kind of touching on earlier.
Well, doesn't he look brilliant in his suits when he's like, he's got this posture.
Yeah.
And he's go ahead.
Yeah. No, I was just gonna say.
I was just saying, I just love watching him.
This movie baffled me so much. This is the first time where I've actually, obviously the thoughts up until here have been my own, but I did look up what other people were saying analysis-wise on this movie.
Oh, come on!
I know. I'm sorry.
This is bullshit.
But it's interesting. There's a lot of
you gotta have your own original thoughts, even if they're stupid like mine.
I know, and I'm disclosing this as a Yeah, idiot right
gotta
here.
Be an idiot, an original idiot. Sorry.
So one thing is that this is a film about actors. You got Freddie Quill, who is the Marlon Brando type. He's veering off into the method acting, whereas Philip Seymour Hoffman character is more the actors before him. The actors. I can't. There was a specific name that they brought up in the article I read, but yeah, I mean, I can totally see that. You got Joaquin Phoenix talking on the side of his mouth, always sounding drunk, like total like method acting,
hunched over.
Yeah, and then like Philip Seymour Hoffman's like, like classical acting, you know, and that people are saying there's like a comparison with that.
That makes sense.
That's interesting. Yeah, I've never heard that before.
Yeah, so I didn't either until I looked it up because I'm a cheater.
That actually is great. Yeah, it's a classic show. You'd see him almost like as a circus ringleader or something. Philip Seymour Hoffman, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Making a speech and being larger than life.
Right.
He literally is, and he's so freaking great at it, and so sad that he's not with us anymore.
Yeah, and one more thing I wanted to ask. I mean, is again, what is it about Freddie Quill that Lancaster Dodd is so attached to? Is it, does he see his former self in that? Does he see a polar opposite? Like what is it that he sees in Freddie Quill?
To me, quickly, is that he can't tame him. Matt, you?
Oh, well, I mean, from what I've said before, he could sense the loyalty and all that, but after I've seen it several times now, and I get to the end, and I think part of the motivation of why he's so drawn to Freddie is the idea within him that if I can't convert him, then it's going to be so much more difficult for all these other. Like, this is a challenge, and I need to be able to tame this beast.
Yeah.
It'll only give him further confidence to go out because he knows how to deal with all these others, and this one's a key one to him on some level.
Yeah,
100% agree. Yeah,
definitely. And then Peter, Freddie.
I just hate you. Just get Freddie, man, or just say Joaquin Phoenix and make it easier.
Joaquin Phoenix, he is drawn to Lancaster Dodd. I have no problem saying that. He is attached to him because he's the only one that has actually accepted him. He's the only one that is actually, as he says in the jail cell, I'm the only one who likes you. I'm the only one here.
Freddie sees, a community that he's never been a part of one. So I think that's part of the reason that he was, drawn to it. Yeah. Dowd could sense that, and he can rope him in because he's really good at getting people on board to what his cause is.
Definitely.
We talked about unintentionally funny, and Matt, you talked about this, the jail scene, and Benny just mentioned it. Is how Freddie is, was he banging his head against things and breaking the toilet? And Lancaster Dodd is just sitting there, like with his hand on his hip, just talking to him calmly. Right. That to me is a bit of comedy, right?
No, definitely. Yeah, it's Yeah,
but it's both of their approaches. Hoffman knowing that there's nothing he can do right now, so expending the energy and destroying his toilet doesn't make sense. And Freddie is lashing out at being caged again. It does not care for it. It's the smash of the toilet is when it's really egregious. Like, you're an idiot. It's fine to kick these bars and muss up the beds, but
what are you just gonna? Shit on the?
Gonna go in the corner? Like, what are you gonna do?
Exactly.
And right after that, Dodd takes a piss. Right. So where's Freddie gonna piss? Good point.
Exactly. Right. He's kind of rubbing his nose in his own stupidity.
It's a fucking dog, man.
Yeah.
I honestly think you could break this film down so much more for hours. Like there's so much here.
Yeah.
But I think we definitely covered a lot of it. Matt, was there anything else? And I don't know if you have notes or anything like that you wanted to mention about the film.
Check your notes, Matt, please.
Yeah, please. Yeah.
Go through your notes.
I've never taken notes for anything ever. So
Great.
The master bless you. I was going to say God bless you, but the master bless you.
Yeah. Homework. I already have enough homework. I don't need to create written homework.
Okay.
I write it as I'm watching the movie, so it's not, double.
It's why I got out of the schmodown. Dudes come and be like, "Oh, dude, I studied for 3 hours last night." Be like, "Fuck off, man." Fuck off. I have real things to do in my life than to study questions for this. And once everybody started doing it, just like, okay, well, I'm finished with this.
It'd be nice if it was an off the top of your head kind of deal, and then once it becomes like, oh, it's like a college course. Then this is we seem like we're missing something here.
Now
there's a skill within that. I am not denigrating it. It's just not something I want to spend my time doing. I would.
Do you think people take it a little too seriously sometimes, or is it full entertaining? Like,
I think, rightly so. People take it seriously. No one's really fucking about, and if you're going to go through the process of doing it, that makes all the sense to me. And that's one of the reasons I told Christian eventually was done is like, look at the joy that everybody else has in all aspects of this. I like the game, but the wrestling stuff, like I stopped watching wrestling when I was a kid. So cutting it was just not my cup of tea. That's why the last one I did with Bibiani, he was, his energy was boundless when it came to like, boom, what about we do this and this and this? And it's like, man, I just want to show up and answer questions. That's This is my 15th or 20th of these. Like, I don't want to do this because
that's kind of how I feel. I would want to be like, just like, I just want to see what I know. Like, if I know it, great. If
this was a fun game, and now it's turned into a show. And there's it's great. I signed on for a fun game, and then others wanted the show, and it make the show. People love the show. But makes it, it does whatever they all want it to do.
Yeah,
exactly.
Definitely. Now we do a rating system here at Blockbuster Mentality. At the end of each film we discuss, we do it out of stars and buckets of popcorn. Stars are the quality of the film, so like your Citizen Kanes, your Godfathers, and then buckets of popcorn. Those are your diehards. Those are your entertainment value. So quality is stars, entertainment value is popcorn. Let Dave start. This
is on a scale of 1 to 5. We allow halves. I don't do halves, but Ben does halves. You can't do a third, Matt. But we'll allow a half. Yeah. So start.
I'll do whatever the fuck I want.
Do whatever the hell you want.
This is.
You can mute my microphone if you'd like. This is one that I've seen many times. A film that I think I liked it more. I think I liked it more the first time I saw it, and in subsequent viewings, as I've maybe analyzed it a bit, it's fallen a bit, and that's why I said to much anger that I wasn't sure if it's a good movie. I do think it is a good movie. So in terms of stars, I'm going to give it 3 out of 5 stars. The issue with me, why it doesn't get, say, 4 or 5 stars, is this movie never really hits me in the feels. There are a lot of movies that do, and even just talking one of our latest movies, Man of Steel. That movie hits me in the feels. It's not a perfect film, but there are I'd say about 5 scenes in that where I'm like, this is doing something to me inside. I never quite connect with this film. There's something quite missing in this movie. So that's why I'm going to just give it 3 stars. And in terms of buckets of popcorn, this thing's 2.5 hours long. I don't know why. It could be an hour and 45 minutes. I think you could tell this whole story. So I'm going to give it 2 buckets of popcorn. So 3 stars, 2 buckets.
All right. I'll go next. I feel like the more I watch it, and now that we've analyzed it and broken it down, I appreciate it even more. So I'm actually going to give it 4 out of 5 stars. Again, it has to do with just Paul Thomas Anderson's even the camera work, the cinematography, everything like that. I think this story is a lot. Like I said, we could have spoken for 3 more hours about this, and broken everything down. So I give it 4 stars. Yeah, I mean, it is a little long. It's not very entertaining. There's some comedic elements. I give it 2 buckets of popcorn. So 4 stars and 2 buckets of popcorn.
It's a 5 and a 5, guys. What are we talking?
Wow.
Look at that.
Well, I think because it speaks to a lot of stuff that I like in movies, and that's just for me personally. I think for the average person, like I couldn't pay my wife to watch this.
Right. Yeah.
My wife walked out last night. She refused.
It's a 1 and a 1, and she wishes she could go lower. I know that going into, because that's what now I think of them as what's the point movies, because that's what she says at the end of a movie. What's the point?
Does she like any Paul Thomas Anderson, by the way?
I don't know, but like where that came from was we saw Boyhood, and I walked out and I was impressed by the achievement. I liked the movie a lot, and to take that long, and she just like, well, what was the point? And I was like, you're showing a snapshot of someone's life, and you're just kind of going through and experiencing it with them. She's like,
right.
Okay, I don't care. And you're like, no, fair enough. So I think for the average person, like popcorns, it's probably like a 2.
Right. Yeah. That's what we try to average. Like our popcorn rating is more like the average person. Like, are they going to find this entertaining?
Yeah. This isn't Avengers Endgame, right? Or
like
something.
for cinephiles and things like that. Like it's, people are going to,
For
you want a high quality movie, but at this point, I think they know all our feelings on it. So
yeah,
right.
Quality content and all that jazz. It's still a 5, but the popcorn aspect of like, is this an everyman movie? No, it's not. It's selective kind of. You either buy into it or you don't. I do that more often with Anderson, but there are other guys like Malick. I just don't get. I don't.
Yeah.
That to me is just what was the point of that? And I love what was the point movies.
That's like Brave New World, Terrence Malick, Brave New World. For some reason, I love that movie. And anyways, but go ahead. We'll leave that aside. I don't know why.
They're like that for me. It's just like, yeah, I mean, I get it. It was beautiful, but I was bored.
Yeah, they are like that. I agree.
Yeah.
Definitely.
You either buy in or you don't.
Exactly.
Yeah. Anderson is a little bit better. There's the stories move at a quicker pace and whatnot, so you can hook in more people, but it's long.
Yeah, definitely. It's what was it? 2 hours, 20 minutes, 2.5 hours.
I don't have exactly, but
yeah.
But he does get the most out of his actors. I will give him that. I mean, there is no bad no actor comes off bad. I mean, every single character, even if it's just one line, it's delivered really well.
All right. Well, that is The Master. Good stuff here. Again, you probably could have went on and on about it. And Matt Knost, where can they find you?
You can find me anywhere at Matt Knost, MATTKNOST.
Yeah, Matt. Before we leave here, what is all the stuff that you do? Where can people find you? What are your what's going on? We got the Top 10 show. You have anything else going on where people can connect with you?
I mean, both my other podcasts are on hiatus, so right now it's just basically the top 10 for stuff that I do online.
Okay.
I'm doing home improvement stuff with the rest of my time right now. So
nice.
Is there a way people
me
can
on if they like
over and give you a hand?
Yeah, sure. Not a problem. I have like 4 or 5 big jobs. If anybody out there wants to come out and help out, you are more.
Yeah. What do you got? Let's talk through it. You doing a kitchen? You've got a bathroom? What's going on? Closet?
Tomorrow I'm running electrical, and then I'm taping off, painting. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 rooms.
Oh wow!
Yeah, and then after that, I'm gonna retile the kitchen.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah, I've got quite a few projects. So yeah, I'm not online much outside of just doing shows, and then I get off and I go back to working on my house.
So if people want to show up at your house, how can they contact you online if they want to do some free labor?
What is your? You can show up at my address, which is 6234. Go fuck yourself, Los Angeles. You can't miss it. 900 piss off.
All right, Matt. Well, again, you're welcome anytime. We had a lot of fun with you, and again, welcome anytime. Hope we can.
You guys do have a Patreon for the Top 10 show, right?
Maybe we could point people towards that.
Hit us up at patreon.com/the top 10 with the number 10. We got all the do extra 2-3 extra shows, or 2 shows a week. It'll be on average. Again,
Nice.
Next month we retired one show. We're putting in a new show in its place.
Oh, nice.
Well, I love the top 10 show, and I would encourage everyone to give a listen.
Yep, definitely. All right, folks. Well, that is it for us. You can follow us at BlockbusterCast on Twitter. Be sure to rate and review us on iTunes. Dave, where can they find you?
You can find me at Dave_Quist.
I am at BC Cord. But yeah, that was the master, Paul Thomas Anderson, Joaquin Phoenix, the late, great Philip Seymour Hoffman.
Yeah.
All right, folks. Well, for Matt and Dave, I'm Ben. And as always, grab some popcorn, grab some snacks. We'll catch you guys
At the movies.